In this episode, we travel from Athens to Croatia, but first we have a few boat projects to finish and prepare for our longest journey yet.
Before we left Lavrion, we had a couple of jobs that we needed to get done on Tartuga. The first was to replace the bimini that got torn up sailing from Kitnos to Syros. It was old and getting kind of worn out, and there was high winds, and that did it in. The other thing that we had to do, the other big one, was to install solar power. We mentioned that in our previous video. It took a little bit longer than we had planned, but it turned out really well. But we took advantage of the delay to get a few other small projects done. I decided today that I would finally put the swivel on the anchor. There was no swivel on it. There really should be. One of my dilemmas was I need to cut a link of chain out, and without a vise, to hold stuff. Trying to figure out how I was going to hold it and be able to cut it with a hacksaw. So what I did, I just tensioned it up with the windlass, and with tension on it I was able to cut the link. But then I was wondering, once I cut the link, how am I going to cut the shackle, because it'll be loose. So I just inserted the swivel back in between where I cut the link of chain out, and now I'm able to tension it again. Wasn't counting on that. After rummaging through some lockers, I found another hacksaw blade.
To add a couple pad eyes on our deck to rig a jibe preventer, and another one in the cockpit for our safety harness.
Of course, it's not all work. We did have some time to go for a little swim nearby with our friend Matteo.
Like that we met from a neighboring boat next to us.
Yep, and we even had some time for a couple beers afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Last thing we did before we leave to Croatia was to stock up in some food and provisions for the
water, mostly.
Yeah,
water's the big one. 6:30 a.m. on Wednesday. After 24 days here in Lavrion, it's finally time to take off. Just took the last garbage to the dumpster, untie the lines, zip over to the fuel dock. Now we'll top up the tanks and we're ready to head to Croatia. So, kind of excited about that. Well, I guess the fuel dock opens at 8 o'clock, not 7:30. But we're sitting here, we're ready.
About to leave, already packing, come with me.
We are just coming out from Lavrion. We're sailing really good. The wind calmed down a lot and we are doing 7 knots right now.
About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions, we'll get away, this is what we waited for.
We took a shortcut through some shallow water in between a couple of islands. Probably would have been wiser to go around, but I think it was around 4 meters, but it was worth it. The watercolor was just amazing.
It's beautiful. By the end of the day, we we arrive in Isthmia, which is outside of the Corinth Canal.
Yeah,
before you cross it.
Just outside the entrance.
It's a little anchorage there, and we anchor there for the night.
Patio is open.
Coming into the Corinth Canal.
So this is the customer service department at Corinth Canal. Beautiful morning, no wind. So easy to dock alongside when there's no wind like this. Here's Tartuga right there, tied up, waiting for us. In a few minutes we'll be heading through the canal.
Oh, doggy! We just paid the fee, so now we are gonna wait like 30 minutes.
So, yeah, as Karina said, we just paid for the fees for going through the canal, 259 euros. So it's not cheap. I read that this is one of, if not the most expensive canal in the world per kilometer.
Bye, cutie. Bye. It's a beautiful morning. Very calm.
We're back here at Tartuga. One guy said just stay where we are until the gate opens within half an hour. But the other fella on the tower just shouted down, said he needs us to go out and anchor until they call us. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. When we arrived here at the canal last night, we were debating, it was what, about 5:30, 6, around 6. So we were debating whether to go in and pay and get through the canal last night and anchor on the other side. But we had read in the pilot, or we were looking at the pilot, and there didn't seem to be any good places to anchor other than the town harbor on the other side. We didn't want to bother going into a harbor. So we decided to anchor on the east side here before going through. And as it turns out, that was the right decision, because we asked the operator about that, and he said no, like if there's no wind it's fine over there, but if there's wind it's really not the place to be. So he said the best thing to do when going through from east to west is anchor east on the east side, and when you get through, continue on, because the anchorage we want to get to is about 50 nautical miles or so up the Gulf. So hopefully we'll get the go-ahead here soon, and off we go.
While we wait for them to call us to let us know that we can go, we anchored here on the side. They are gonna call us on VHF, on the radio, and in the meanwhile we are gonna put our fenders away, because we won't need them anymore until we get to Croatia.
Is that all of them?
Nope.
How many more you got?
I think like probably 4.
We just Dragonfly. We just got the call from Corinth Canal Control, asked us to lift our anchor and wait for their instructions. Or to call them for instructions. So we lifted the anchor, called for instructions. They said, okay, wait. So we wait.
So we got the go now. And they told us to follow this boat, this power boat, Maid Marianne. So we are gonna go through the canal. It's
3.2 nautical miles. And it depends how fast we go. We're doing 3 or 4 knots. It's gonna be close to an hour. Max speed limit is 7 knots, which would get you through in exactly half an hour.
So we are in the canal now.
The Corinth Canal connects the Gulf of Corinth with the Saronic Gulf in the Aegean Sea. The canal itself is only 6.4 kilometers long, but it shortens the trip around the Peloponnese by 185 nautical miles. The canal is also only 25 meters wide, so it's very narrow.
Although the construction actually began in the 19th century, like the idea dates back to the 600 BC. And since the lack of capabilities to dig in the canal, they built a road so the boats can be wheeled across the other side. And then this project was on and off for years due to lack of funding, and until finally it was completed by a Greek company in 1893. What once was an important trade route is now mostly just a tourist attraction. We are out. So that I can be sure that you remember what's best. I used to be satisfied, stayed over the surface. Now I just can't get enough.
So through the canal, and now we're faced with 2 knots of wind. The water couldn't be any calmer, flatter, which is great if you want to make a cup of coffee, relax. But we have 52 nautical miles to cover today, which means we're going to be doing a lot of motoring again. Shortly after entering the Gulf of Corinth, we saw dolphins for the first time. That was really exciting for us. We get excited when we see fish, any fish.
Yeah, we see any animal.
Now I want to embrace life. You and I side by side. Knowing there's more in life.
Our goal for the day was to make it to Nafpaktos, where we were planning on anchoring for the night. But as we got closer, the channel narrowed, and because of the big mountains on either side, it funnels the wind through, and the wind rapidly built to 25 knots right on our nose. We decided our best option would be to just seek shelter in Trezonia for the night.
Leaving what is it? Trezonia?
We're approaching the Rion and Lavrion Bridge, the longest cable suspension bridge in the world, I think Pilot said. We're about 7 nautical miles out. 5 nautical miles, we're required to call bridge control and request permission to transit, and they'll tell us essentially which lane to take, between which pillars we have to transit.
Rion traffic, this is Tortuga, over. Rion traffic, this is Tortuga, over. We are requesting permission to transit the channel, over.
Tortuga, what is the height of the mast?
21 meters.
21 meter high.
Tortuga, keep your course to north navigation tunnel, keeping 1 mile on your right, 3 miles on your left. 1 mile before the bridge, over the gate.
Roger, over. Out. Once we passed the bridge, we caught some wind that carried us to the Ionian.
As we got closer to our anchorage in Estacos, the wind picked up again. It was getting into the evening. The wind picked up again and blasted 28 knots. We were glad to get into shelter.
Just wanna love you, just wanna hold you, just wanna be with you till we grow old. Please tell me you'll stay or take me away. I want you for myself every single day. You set my world on fire. You set my world.
Exiting the canal was chaotic. Once the bridge opened, all the boats that had been bunched up looking to pick their course and head off on the heading that they want to travel, and without much concern about the other boats. So everybody was crisscrossing, some boats going faster, some slower. You really had to be on your toes. That wasn't a lot of fun.
At the end of the day, we entered Provenza to rest and spend the night.
Just leaving Provenza, 7 a.m. Well, we're getting treated to a beautiful sunrise in the background. About 68 nautical miles to go today, so better get at it.
Arriving in Corfu. After safely anchor in Corfu, it was time to prepare for our first night passage.
We had to go through just a quick run through all of our systems, make sure everything was working, and that's when we found our portside navigation light was out. We'd never noticed this before because we never sailed at night before, never really even had them on. Yeah. So that meant we had to go ashore and try to find a new light. At first I thought maybe we could replace a bulb, but they're a sealed unit and you have to replace the whole light. So luckily we were able to find one and got back to the boat and got it changed. And
we were all set.
7:30 that evening, we left Corfu with our next stop 205 miles away in Cavtat. We left in the evening to make sure that somewhere between 36 and 40 hours later, we would arrive in Cavtat in the morning. That gave us, if we were running late, that gave us all day with daylight, and wasn't much chance we were going to arrive early. Sea's so flat. It's been pretty much like this all night. So 7:30 in the morning of our first night sail, well, not a sail, our first night trip. We were motoring because there's zero wind. nice night went by fast. One more to go. We were surprised by the dampness overnight. Even though there was no wind and it was clear, it was just damp and the whole boat got wet, and on the bimini there was beads of water forming on the underside of the bimini, and once they started dripping we had to go get our foul weather jackets on just to stay dry.
We have done 140 now, probably 95 miles.
205.
205. The total to
70 to go.
Never understand things that we want, but you keep coming back. I want love you don't know, so why are you here? Yeah, I should take it back so that you don't know where my heart is at. Don't want you to know my love is lost. Well, there's only one thing left to do.
So we actually had to slow down a little bit approaching Cavtat. We made good time. Well, we motored all the way, so we made good time, and just so that we wouldn't arrive in the dark, we slowed down for the last couple hours, arrived right at sunrise, and we were really pleasantly surprised by our first views of Croatia.
Did you ever stop and think, why spend too much time just getting ready? Let me be honest, I don't know a single thing that I haven't done to make you notice me. Let me be real here. When I see you, my heart starts racing, but I don't know if I like this chasing and playing and waiting around.
After clearing up with customs and the port police and the harbor master, we finally were able to go and sit and relax and have a few drinks.
I need somebody to love.